Okay, let's start with a wild idea. What if a river could sue you? I'm serious. Or what if a forest had the same legal rights as, say, a corporation? Now, I know it sounds like something straight out of science fiction, but this is a very real legal revolution that's happening right now all around the world. So let's dive right in. We have had environmental laws and treaties for decades, right? But this quote, this really gets to the heart of an uncomfortable truth. It nails why so many of those efforts just fall short. The problem is, our entire legal system is basically built on the idea that nature is just property. It's an object, a resource for us to own and use. And that, right there, that fundamental flaw, well, it's at the core of our biggest ecological challenges. So let's get into it. What's the real problem with our current laws? Well, they're overwhelmingly anthropocentric. Now, that's just a fancy word that means human-centered. Think about it. Our laws are designed to protect our interests in the environment. Clean air for us to breathe, clean water for us to drink. But they almost never protect the environment for its own sake. That's the key distinction. Okay, so that leads us to a pretty radical but really powerful alternative. What if we changed the very foundation of the law itself? What if we just stopped treating nature like an object? And instead, what if we started recognizing it as a subject, an entity with its own inherent right to simply exist and thrive? Let's break down what that actually looks like. I think this does a great job of laying out the two completely different worldviews side by side. So on one hand, you've got the old system, the one we've lived with for centuries, anthrocentric law. Nature is property, plain and simple. Its value is all about its usefulness to humans. What can it do for us? But then you have this other view, the ecocentric one. Here, nature is a subject. It has its own inherent rights and value, completely separate from us. And we're not the owners, we're just part of a much bigger ecological community. It's a huge shift in thinking. So how do we make that ecocentric view a reality? Well, the main tool for that is a concept called environmental personhood. And I know, it sounds a little strange at first, but here's the thing. We grant legal personhood all the time, to corporations, for example. All it really means is giving an entity legal standing so it can be represented in court. It means that through a legal guardian, nature could finally have its own voice to defend its own right to exist. And this question really puts the whole idea in pretty stark terms, doesn't it? I mean, think about it for a second. If a corporation can sue someone for lost profits, why on earth can't a forest sue for its very survival? When you frame it like that, it completely changes how you look at issues like pollution or deforestation. It shifts the focus to our responsibilities in a whole new way. Okay, so you might be thinking, this is all great in theory, but where is it actually happening? Well, let's look at our first real-world example, the Kingdom of Bhutan. For them, this isn't some abstract legal idea. Oh no, it is woven right into the fabric of their entire national philosophy, something they call gross national happiness. And in Bhutan, this isn't just some vague philosophy, it's actual constitutional law. Their whole gross national happiness framework legally connects human well-being directly to ecological balance. For example, the Constitution says that a minimum of 60% of the entire country must remain under forest cover. It's mandated. And get this, it also gives every single citizen a specific duty to help protect the natural world. Now that creates a really powerful legal foundation for an ecocentric society. All right, now let's pivot and look at a totally different approach happening in India. Over there, it's the courts that are really taking the lead. And a lot of this is inspired by ancient traditions that have for centuries viewed nature as something sacred. And what they're doing is absolutely groundbreaking. The High Court in India has actually declared major rivers like the Ganges and the Yamuna to be living entities with the exact same legal rights as a person. Just let that sink in. This means that harming the river is now legally the same as harming a human being. It just completely transforms the legal landscape for anyone who might pollute it. But here's the thing. This legal innovation isn't just coming out of nowhere. As this quote points out, it's deeply, deeply connected to indigenous and religious worldviews in that part of the world. For them, nature was never just property to begin with. For so many people, a river or a mountain has always been seen as a living being, like a relative or even a deity. In a way, the law is finally just catching up with the culture. So now we've got these incredible, powerful examples from both Bhutan and India. But the big question is, how do we weave these ideas together? How do we create a framework that could actually work on a global scale? That's the next critical step we need to figure out. Now, the academic term for this is normative harmonization. I know. Don't let the jargon scare you. It's actually a pretty simple idea when you break it down. It just means creating a really strong legal framework by blending three powerful ingredients: a guiding national philosophy, like we saw in Bhutan, ancient indigenous wisdom, and modern international legal theory. And here's basically how you build that bridge. Step one, you learn from those big picture national philosophies, like Bhutan's gross national happiness. Step two, you have to respect and integrate indigenous customary laws. That's the ancient wisdom part. And finally, step three, you weave all of that into the bigger global rights of nature debate that's happening right now. And let's be really clear about this. The goal here is not just to make some kind of symbolic gesture, not at all. It's about creating real, practical, and most importantly, enforceable protections for nature. It's about giving nature the actual legal tools it needs to defend itself in a system that, up until now, has pretty much completely ignored its voice. And honestly, that's what's so exciting about this whole approach. When you ground these rights in a national philosophy and in customary law, this idea of environmental personhood, it stops being just a beautiful metaphor. It becomes a workable, practical tool you can actually use to seek justice. And the benefits of a tool like this, they're huge. We're talking about a tool that can protect entire ecosystems in a way our current laws just can't. It's a tool for respecting indigenous self-determination. And crucially, it's a tool for securing justice for all the generations that will come after us. It's a win-win-win. And so this whole thing leaves us with a brand new question. If we accept that nature has rights, if we agree that a forest can be a legal person, then we face the next great challenge. Who speaks for it? Who becomes its guardian? Who takes on the duty of speaking for the river, for the mountain, for the entire ecosystem? That is the question that all of us now have a responsibility to answer.